Hello, Facebook. No, where am I? YouTube. What a morning. Happy Friday the 13th. Okay, so welcome. This is a special Friday the 13th yoga practice. And I had lots of technical difficulties this morning in more ways than one. So I want to talk a little bit about Friday the 13th before we get going, because, there's a lot of superstition around this date, and it has to do with the time of the witches and the Inquisition, all of that. And this day that only happens certain times during the year, Friday the 13th, became this, evil, devilish day. And the reason was because women would gather on this day for the purposes of healing and sharing and communion with each other and with spirit. And this was a threat to the powers that were the powers, the powers that always exist. So here we are today, and again, forgive me, I'm a little scattered at the moment because, like I said, I really wanted to do this today for you all, and then I had all these technical issues. In fact, the last week I've been having one technical issue after the other, and I've had to reinstall Windows on another computer, and then had to do the same on this one. So everything's squared away, I hope, and we're ready for some yoga. So this is all about reclaiming the superstition around this day, reclaiming the original intent, for it to be a day of sharing and healing and communion with spirit. And so join me now on your mat, and we will partake in Friday the 13th in a positive way. We will start with a mudra. I find myself already in one with the back of the hands together, which just sort of happened. And it's interesting because it centered me from all the energy that was around as I started this. This really helped bring me in, but this isn't the mudra we're doing today. Just to share that the way that we hold our hands has a powerful impact on how we feel. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the hands together, wrists together, folding the fingers in towards the center. We have the thumbs on the outside. They'll simply close. So we have these. It's like making two light fists and then bringing the hands together. And we'll hold that right at the heart. And let's breathe in. And out at your own pace. Breathing in and out. Holding the mudra at the heart space. You might want to imagine that within your hands held is a precious gem. Whatever that would be for you, be it a diamond, ruby, emerald, sapphire, so many to choose from. And let this gem represent you, not the you think you are, or the you with all your limitations and constructs, but the real you, that precious gem, limitless, vast, blessed, talented, courageous, centered, and powerful. Continue to breathe in and out, aware of the breath and the sensation of that air moving over the nostrils, into the lungs, and back out into space. And just notice how your hands feel in this position. There's a little bit of protection at the high heart here with the hands. It also reminds me of, receiving a special gift or an unexpected surprise that's delightful. It's like a hand position of delight where you just, are a cute little baby animal and you just go, "Oh, it's so cute." It's that kind of feeling that this mudra evokes. Again, imagining that gemstone in your hands, shining brightly, radiant with a beautiful color, whatever stone you chose. And now let's release the mudra, opening the hands at the level of the heart in a little cup. Still imagining that gemstone there. And then we will release this up. So just offer it up. Offer it up to life. And then be willing in this next half hour or so to surrender to that life. We're in unmistakably challenging times all across the planet for all different reasons. It's a constant onslaught, and it can become quite exhausting. And we may flip-flop between feeling really encouraged and hopeful and the direct opposite. And let that be okay. Whatever place you're in right now, today, here, whenever you happen to be watching this, just allow it to be okay. Whatever side of the continuum you're on with that. And no, it's really not a continuum, a line, but a circle. Okay. My husband just pulled up, so we might get a little interrupted. Sorry about that, but he'll be coming in shortly. Okay. Those of you who follow Stuart know who I'm talking about. Stuart Davis. Anyway. Okay, let us breathe in with the arms coming from the sides overhead on the inhale. And reach up, exhale. Again, inhale up. Hands touch overhead, lengthening through the side body, and open, exhale. And let's repeat this. Now, if your breath, if you take longer to inhale, by all means do so. If you want to release before I exhale, do so. So I just took an extra breath and I'm actually stretching, elongating through the spine. Feels really good to me. My thumbs are interlocked, so I have a little bit of resistance between the hands, which helps me elongate as well. And open, release. Okay, we're going to start in child's pose. So if you would come onto your knees. Now, when I'm teaching, I always like to give people lots of options. And you know, if you're familiar with child's pose, you're on the lower legs and bending the trunk over the thighs. Sometimes the knees are together. Sometimes the knees will be apart. It's up to you. Your toes may be flat. You might even have them curled back depending on your version of child's pose. And some people will find it more comfortable to be on the forearms with the tailbone in the air, which is, you know, it's puppy pose, a form of child's pose, very similar. Or having the tail all the way down to the heels. And then, of course, there are options with the hands. So you can have the hands extended overhead here. If the forehead doesn't come to the ground comfortably, you can stack your hands and rest your head on your hands. Or you can tuck your arms alongside the body, which I think I will do for myself. So just explore what your options are and then choose one. And relax in this position. And let's just empty the mind as we breathe in through the nose, letting the air run down both sides of the spine, collecting at the center of the spine at the lower back, and then exhaling over through the spine over the crown of the head. So breathing in down both sides of the spine. Exhaling over the crown of the head. And here you might want to employ Ujjayi breath, which is the victorious breath, that oceanic sounding breath. And we stay here for some time so that the body has a chance to release in its own time. As you breathe, you can focus on what is moving, what tissues do you feel rising and falling with the breath. Now we're going to come up onto all fours. So have your hands under your shoulders or maybe a little bit in front. Knees right under your hips. You can go ahead and tuck your toes back to get a stretch through the toes. Just leaning your weight back and forth. And here I really like to push my hands slightly forward on the mat, and my feet are engaging through the toes back. So there's this tension line. If you could imagine an arrow going that way and an arrow going that way, that tension line is what creates the support through this posture. And I can really feel my core engage as I push in those two opposing positions. Let's start some cat-cow. So just rounding the back and Sinking through, bringing the chest through the arms. Now I have my toes back. You're welcome to have your toes flat if that's more comfortable. And you can go at whatever pace feels comfortable for you. So if you want to go faster or slower, if you want to really hold and retain the breath out on the arch, feel free. And you can do the same on the way through the chest, just opening the chest, holding the breath, retaining it on the inhale. Good, and then just moving back and forth as you wish. Changing the toes at any point, changing your rhythm at any point. And you can become a little more creative in the movement so that it's not just a cat-cow, but that you begin to articulate in different ways, perhaps turning to look behind you, or making circles through the hips, which can be really nice. And, this is a pretty juicy move for our Friday the 13th and reclaiming the power of that day, because there's also a lot of taboo around the body, of course, and taking delight in how the body feels. So here we can reclaim some of our snake-like abilities. And then bending the toes back if you are prepared to do so. We will go into a downward dog. So what I like to do again is find that opposition of forward movement, back movement to peel up. Okay, so I peel onto my feet, lifting the tail, and I keep my knees bent to start. And what I'm working with here is trying to find equal weight on my hands and on my feet. So I don't have all my weight on my wrists, nor am I pushed back towards the feet. The backs of my legs are starting to open on their own, and so I can still keep my knees bent, but my heels can fall to the ground. So just hold and breathe here. Find some space at the groin from the belly and allow the belly to move up towards the spine. And the other thing that if I'm holding this posture for any period of time, feel free to come down at any time if you want to, by the way. As I'm holding this posture, I might become aware of kind of getting a little rigid in it. And if I notice that, then I just want to start to move my body in little ways so that tension, that stiff as a boardness starts to soften a little. We don't need to work as hard as we do sometimes. Okay, coming up onto the toes, peeling a little more upward with the tailbone, and then back to the knees. We're going to step into a lunge forward. And normally the lunges that we take, we step directly forward. We're actually going to open this front foot out, not directly to the side, but at about a, depending on which leg you're on. If you are facing a clock face, okay, and you go around the clock to 10 o'clock, that's about where we want this lunge to be open to. So it's a little off to the side, and then just to allow the pubic bone to move forward into space. And you're welcome to just kind of go back and forth with that a little bit. So we don't need to force anything. Remember, this day was also about healing. And so we want to treat the body with respect rather than force and push it into things that might be a little uncomfortable. And it's also okay to modify things that don't feel right. So a common thing for people is if they have knee issues, to be on the back knee like this can be uncomfortable on a hard surface. So if you need something, towel, blanket, you can wrap that up and put it right under the knee. Now, let's take the body forward. If you can, put your hands on the floor. If you have blocks, that might make it more accessible for some of you. You could have the blocks at whatever height you need to have the hands forward. Okay. Otherwise, just take them to the mat. So you might feel a really nice opening now through that hip, the front hip. Just breathe and hold. And again, you can find movement, a little bit of sway, rather than be static and stiff as a board. You can kind of rock and find new sensation. I am now tucking my toes back on the back leg, so that is an option. And then if you feel open enough, you can bring your forearms to the floor and then just rest in this lizardy lunge. Another reptile for our practice today. And I might see if I want to block from my forehead. Not at that height. That's nice. So always be looking for ways to make yourself more comfortable and more released in the posture. And then just make sure that you are breathing fully. Okay, so to come out, just press back up to your hands first, and then lean back and then back. Let's take a stretch for the front leg now. So straightening that front leg as much as is possible, having the foot on the heel, and however far you want to bring your front body over that leg, stretching the back line of the front leg. And my head is really feeling today like it wants support, so I'm going to give it some with another block, even in this pose. That required that I bent my knee a little more so that I could bring my head down. So that's something to be aware of as well. Okay, let's push up. Coming back to all fours. Take a moment before you second leg in for the lunge, just to feel the difference between the two sides. And then when you're ready, we'll step directly forward and then out to what on this side would be 1, 2, 3, 3 o'clock? No, 12, 1, 2, 2 o'clock. Most of us read digital clocks these days, don't we? And so doing a little movement back and forth here, just to get a sense of how tight or where any tightness might be for you. And then if you can bring your hands to the ground or use a block to support yourself, we'll start with the hands flat, if that's accessible. And here I am working to open up that hip even more here of the front leg so that my body can come into that space. And then if it feels okay for you, you can come onto your forearms. And so in this position with the forearms, I'm noticing that my weight is on that front leg, back toes, because I have them bent back. And then quite a bit of it is leaning off to the opposite supporting arm. And so I want to bring that back to feel a little more equalized through the forearms. And then I'm just doing some ujjayi breath here. The core is pulled in and strong. Okay, so when you're ready to come up, do so. And straighten that front leg into a stretch. I may or may not use the block for my head here in a minute. So really use here the anchoring of the heel to help lengthen through that back line. There's a little bit of a dig and a drag that happens. foot is a little tighter, so I won't use the block for my head. And then taking that leg back into all fours position. Just noticing what you feel through both sides now. They should feel a little more balanced and quite open and free. Okay, so from here, we're going to face the length of the mat. And this might not be a great practice for those of you who have knee issues. But again, feel free to put something under your knees if you need to. And we're going to place the hands on the lower back. And just by doing that, just notice as you bring your arms around, the elbows come towards each other in the back, and how that opens this whole front space around the ribs and chest. You can slightly tilt the pelvis forward. You don't really tuck anything and tighten anything. Just allow it to be drawn forward. And so we're doing a little bit of, I'm going to turn this way just so you can see, a little bit of a back bend here. Open the chest. Take some breaths here and just notice, sometimes when we're in a different position, we can really feel the tightness as we breathe. And that's good. Breathe into those tight spaces. You don't have to force. You just want to feel like you're creeping in a little bit at a time and expanding the contraction. And then coming back upright, we're going to do a little bit of a flow. So from the child's pose variation with the knees together, the hands wrapped around the body, we will inhale, come up, a little bit of a back bend, and then exhale, wrap down. So you can do this at your own pace. Turn again. Inhale up. Exhale down. Now the tendency when we're moving like this is to keep a little bit of a readiness in the muscles because we know we have to go up again. What I'd like you to try and do is relax completely once you land. So just let everything completely surrender through the legs, arms, and then come up. Let's do a few more. Feel the strength of the legs. There's this wrap around, the spiraling of the muscles that helps us come up and down. And of course, the core has to work as well, especially about here, before we wrap the arms around and come down. So just be aware of what is having to work. Last one. And just bring the hands down the center line of the body to the heart. And we'll extend the left leg out. Now, have your toes pointing forward. If that is not comfortable for you, you are welcome to activate your toes, have your heel on the ground, draw the toes back towards the shin. So I'm going to have my foot flat, and we're going to reach directly overhead with the opposing arm. Breathing in And on the exhale, lean into the long leg. So here we want to make sure that we're not poking the ribs out forward. Bring everything back in. And here, if it's uncomfortable to have the arm up as much as it is, then you can also just place the fingertips on the shoulder and work with the elbow as opposed to the whole arm. So we want to feel the whole length of this side of the body really grounded and rooted through the supporting knee that's right under us. And then open. And you might be leaning quite a bit, you might be leaning just a little bit, so it's all good. What we don't want is to be leaning way over the knee, or way over the foot rather, with the knee. So you might have to readjust so that your knee. Now we're going to bring this arm against the leg on the inside, and there's a little bit of resistance here, so my knee's pressing into arm, arm pressing back into knee. And then you can extend the other arm to whatever position feels good, so any degree. The other thing you can do, if you like, is to tuck and bind this arm around the waist. In which case you might enjoy looking up behind you, but you can always look in any direction that feels good for your head. So yeah, this pose requires a bit of work, but there's still ways that we can let go within it. If we have the weight on the balls of that front foot, as opposed to the back, it's going to change which muscles are working. The toes to be a better support. And then to release, if you have a bind, just release the arm and then come back up. Let's take both knees in to the center. Just notice anything you feel through the waist, the lower back, the hips, backs of the legs. And then we'll go to the other side. So what did we start with? We started with gate pose. So the foot out with the toes pointing forward, or if it's more comfortable for you, toes up and back towards the shin. And from here, we're going to lift the opposite arm up high, breathe in, and on the exhale, come over that leg, and you really use the support of your body right under you. So you do want to, let me show you here. So, I could be doing this kind of a thing with my butt poking out. That's not what I want. I want everything to be right under me. It's a lot less effort. And a lot better for the back. Really feeling that length from your fingertips in the air, or your elbow if you have your fingertips on your shoulder, all the way down the side ribs and through the leg down to the knee. And let's breathe in and open. And then bending that leg side, leaning in and back. It can be interesting to have your hand right in your hip crease here and just feel as you lean back and forth what muscles you might feel working and twitching away. You know, a lot of times in a yoga class, we really aren't paying attention to what is having to work. We're just doing what we know to do. And as this particular practice is about communion with ourselves and healing, I think it works well to pay a little more attention to what is actually happening here. Okay, when you're ready, lean into that side. Let's bring the arm inside to press against the knee and the knee against the arm. And then the other arm extended in whatever position feels good or tucking behind. So I'm going to start here and then I'll probably end up in a bind. So again, I felt my weight on my full foot here in the front. And just by switching a little bit of the weight towards the toes, it made it a lot easier. Okay, so let's unbind if you're bound, bringing that arm down, if it's up and back. Let's sit in rock pose or on the knees. And just take a moment again to note sensations in the body. I'm certainly feeling awake in this area. Okay. So last thing is to come onto our backs. With the knees bent, please. So try to find a place where your legs can feel like they can rest without having to hold themselves up. If you need to walk the heels out to the edge of the mat and let the knees drop in towards each other so you're not holding on at the groin, or you might have to move your feet a little further from your pelvis or perhaps a little closer. So investigating for yourself. So I just would like to do some breath with you here. We're going to extend the arms overhead on the inhale, taking them as far as you can on your inhale. If they reach the floor, great. If not, just extend and reach them wherever they can reach. And then on the exhale, back down to the ground and release. So here we go. Breathing in. Reach. And exhale, coming down. Now, your breath rhythm might be quite different than mine, so please feel free to go at your own pace here. Just breathing in and out as you raise and lower the arms. There's some wonderful things to pay attention to here. As you inhale, feeling the ribs expanding, the chest expanding, that space that's created. You know, we don't need to arch the back. We can keep that upper back completely on the ground as we move, and really feel as the arms move, the articulations through the shoulder blades. One breath up, one breath down. Good. When you can do a few more of those if you like. When you're ready, just extend your legs and come into a final resting pose here, Shavasana. Make any adjustments you need to be comfortable. If that means you have something under your knees or your ankles or your head, especially if your chin is jutting into space, a little bit under the head can help. We just don't want to be with the chin tucked. So space in front of and behind the neck. Releasing now and surrendering to gravity. Allowing whatever sensations you're feeling to just drift through your awareness. And deciding here and now that this day, this Friday the 13th, will be a lucky one for you. Feeling the rise and fall of the belly as you breathe. Complete on the inhale and a deep exhalation. Go ahead and wiggle your fingers and toes. Leg and then the other into the ground. Same with the arm, just press different parts of the arm into the ground, the head. Just bringing some tension and stretching back to the body into a full body stretch. If you want to bring the knees into the chest here, you can rock on the back, side to side. When you're ready, just fall into a fetal position off to the right or left. You can choose. And as you're here and right before our rebirth into our day, just take a moment to reclaim your energy, your faith from superstition. Whether it be the superstition that surrounds Friday the 13th or some other superstition or taboo that isn't serving you and that really wasn't yours to begin with, it was just adopted. Hello, kitty. Tiger Lily has come to join in. And when you're ready, you can push yourself up with the top arm, seated position. Let's bring the hands to the chest and we'll close. And to close, please consider that gem that you held in the beginning in our mudra, which, by the way, I meant to share about the mudra and I didn't, so I'll share it now. It's the Mashtika Mudra. It has to do with helping with ego grasping, with self-sabotage, anxiety, self-doubt. It's calming and has heart benefits. So you could even make it again now. Remember bringing the joints of the fingers together, light fists, thumbs in the front, like two light fists with the thumbs and wrists together, and then right at the heart. We'll hold this, imagining a gemstone in the middle of your hands, protected, shining brightly. Deep breath in. Silly kitty. And out. Thank you for joining me on Friday the 13th. Have a wonderful, lucky, fortunate, blessed day. And